Chapter 23. It was nearly 3 a.m. in Eckhart's office. For hours, the two had pored over Alfonso Silva's handwritten notes on the adherents and their strange practices. Eckhart's former career had depended on being an astute reader. Anticipating the long night ahead, he'd stopped at an all-night print shop before arriving. He handed the original notebook to Sides and kept the photocopy for himself, knowing Sides wouldn't bother with highlights or margin notes. Eckhart, on the other hand, underlined, circled, and annotated nearly every paragraph. It irritated him to watch Sides move effortlessly from one page to the next. While Eckhart was still dissecting the first, Sides was already 3 or 4 pages ahead, absorbed in the broader narrative. When he reached the end, Sides flipped back to the beginning and started again. Hours passed in silence before it finally broke. Sides had propped his feet on an empty chair. He paused, resting the notebook on his lap, his eyes drifting to the ceiling as if searching for the right words. His lips pursed, his chin tilted upward. He pressed the back of his teeth with his tongue. Eckhart could hear the steady rush of air through his partner's nostrils and saw the faint bulge of his tongue pressing against the inside of his cheek. He braced for a tirade, something about the maddening structure of Alfonso's writing. Instead, Sides stayed quiet. Eckhart placed the photocopy flat on the desk and removed his reading glasses, setting them upside down. He squeezed the bridge of his nose, pressing his fingers into his eyes. Then, after a deep breath, he looked over at Sides. "Are you getting any of this?" Eckhart asked. "Listen to this," Sides said. He adjusted himself in his seat and began to read. The adherents never tell the full story about their own beliefs. The truth is that the senior clergy believe the earth has its own native supernatural qualities. However, there are supernatural qualities that are foreign to the earth. The foreign qualities cannot push through because the native supernatural qualities act as a type of buffer, much like an immune system. Because the earth is full of life and always in motion, the foreign can never penetrate the barrier that keeps it at bay. The adherents call this barrier the divine winds, hence the adherents of the divine winds. However, if one were able to deflect these divine winds, it would create an opening for the foreign to enter. "The foreign?" Eckhart asked. "I have no idea," Sides said, flipping through the pages. "Maybe foreign supernatural activity." "Wait a minute," Eckhart said. He flipped to the rear of his copy, picked up his reading glasses, and started to review his notes. Using his index finger to locate the correct passage, he audibly gasped when he found it. He lifted his copy from the desk and recited his findings. Cardinal has found a way to deflect, but it requires the active participation of at least 6 other individuals, which he does not have. Their participation also requires them to memorize long passages of responses to incantations that he must initiate. I no longer have access to these passages, but they run contrary to everything we believe as adherents. Wait, Sides said, interrupting. "Hold on, I remember seeing something about this. Flip over to the section that contains his diary." "Which page?" Eckhart asked, already flipping. "Let's see, 1, 2, 3, Sides counted aloud. 4, 5, 5 pages from the start of the diary section." "5, Eckhart asked. 5, Sides confirmed. "Go down to the second paragraph. You there?" "I'm there," Eckhart said, folding the final page around. "July 6th. Already at the passage, Sides interrupted and began to read aloud. July 6th. "Cardinal approached me today and asked me to take our outreach van and the checkbook to the outlet store to purchase 2 sets of bunk beds. When I asked why, he told me that 3 guests from California were going to make their way to us sometime in the fall. The compound can comfortably house the Cardinal and 3 members of the clergy. When I asked how long they were staying, he said, 'Long enough to help promote 3 clergymen.' I couldn't help but smile. I assume he means myself, Father Height, and one of the students. I'm so stupidly excited." "What do you think?" Eckhart asked, placing his copy back on the table. "I'm thinking that 3 plus Silva plus Height plus 1 unsuspecting layperson equals 6. "Bingo," Eckhart said, nodding. "The same 6 that he needs to deflect the winds or whatever the hell he's planning. You've got Silva, who's so eager to please he'd help with anything. You've got Height, who's too dumb to see he's being duped. You've got a plethora of young, naive college students who just want to help. Then you bring in 3 others from out of town, who already know what's going to happen. They give whatever he's planning some legitimacy. It's too perfect. So what are we saying? Sides asked. We're saying that Alfonso was unwittingly helping the Cardinal set up something that didn't sit well with his morals. When Alfonso figured out what he was really doing, he started actively working against the Cardinal. Working against? Correct. Working against, as in, keeping handwritten copies of documents he wasn't supposed to share. Maybe he planned to leak them to the journalists they're always droning on about. I don't know, really, Eckhart said, flipping through more pages of Alfonso's diary section. So they killed him over handwritten copies? Sounds far-fetched, Sides said. I don't know. Maybe it was over theft, Eckhart replied, still flipping. Theft? Sides said, straightening in his chair. He looked genuinely intrigued. Yeah, didn't you see that? See what? Sides asked. Eckhart became more intentional in his searching. He flipped forward one page, then back again. Placing his copy flat on the desk, he began scanning with his index finger. He stopped, then tapped twice on the paper. It's right here. Page? Sides requested. I don't know, let me check. Didn't you read this? Eckhart asked, counting the pages with his fingers. I glanced through his diary. Glanced? Eckhart said in shock. You glanced through? We've been here for hours. Start from the first page of the diary and go 9 pages in. Sides shuffled back to the beginning of Alfonso's diary. He counted audibly as he flipped through the document. Eckhart watched him with incredulity, still processing what Sides had admitted. Eventually, Sides found the page. He kicked his feet back onto the adjacent chair, relaxed his posture, and began scanning the text. Glanced, Eckhart repeated derisively. Sides ignored him. Where are we? About 3 sentences in, Eckhart said, trailing off. From the top. I'm there. Eckhart lifted his own copy and counted down the sentences, tracking his place with his thumb along the edge of the page. When he located the line, he read it aloud, his tone exhausted and perfunctory. I saw him again last night, sometime around 3. He thinks his white noise machine covers up whatever he's doing inside his office. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but he has his own shrine. He had idols strewn across the altar. I don't know who he worships, but it is not the divine creator. I should have said something, but I was too afraid. This is blasphemy. And now he's tainted the compound. Yeah, it doesn't say who, though, Sides said. Eckhart cringed. Sides was right, and although he was more than willing to believe the passage referred to Cardinal Wen, drawing rash conclusions could get them into trouble. For all he knew, it could have been about height. But whoever it referred to wasn't the point he wanted to highlight. He flipped to the next page. It wasn't dated, so it wasn't clear when the next entry was written. But what was there was astounding. He motioned to Sides to turn the page and began to read. I feigned an illness this morning to get out of my duties for the day. Height and Cardinal Wen took the van and supplies to cook for the homeless. I waited an hour before I made my move. The compound was completely abandoned by mid-morning, so I moved to his room and removed the books that concealed the hidden shrine. I was surprised to find the shrine completely empty. All of the idols I saw had been removed. I did find a key that must have been inside one of the books. It fell to the floor as I was removing them. I tried it on all the doors upstairs, but it didn't work on any of them. None of the doors downstairs are ever locked. The compound has a basement. Sometimes extra canned goods are kept down there for the food kitchen. I remember a door down there, but the Cardinal told me years ago it was just an electrical closet. I went down and tried the key. The door opened, and that was no electrical closet. There's another room down there, roughly 10 feet square. Inside, there was an idol like the ones I saw upstairs. It was propped against the wall. All along the floor were the smaller idols. I swiped one and brought it back home with me. Sides straightened up upon hearing the passage, his face suddenly marked by intense concern. Eckhart noticed immediately. Sides sat in silence, contemplating the tale he had just heard. He thought about the strange, grotesque figurine he had taken from Alfonso's home the previous week. Could it be construed as an idol? It was definitely a possibility. That would make Alfonso's actions theft, but who would kill a man over the theft of a small idol? Furthermore, the passage wasn't clear. Who did the idol belong to? Height had been the last person they knew of trying to recover property from Alfonso's home. Was it originally his, or was he acting at someone else's behest? The passage raised more questions than it answered, And if it was the same figurine Sides had seen, why didn't Alfonso mention the terrible place of pink fog, the massive structures, or the awful scratching sounds Sides had now experienced twice? "I don't know that we're any closer now than before we started reading this nonsense," Eckhart said. "None of it seems to add up. It all just feels like noise, a bunch of random facts thrown out." "Maybe," Sides replied. "The way I see it, it's either height or the Cardinal, although," Eckhart hesitated, "height doesn't seem like the type who could kill a man." "Does the Cardinal?" Sides asked, his tone intentionally flat. "Well, no." "All right then," Sides said. Eckhart frowned. He could see the concern on Sides' face, but that wasn't what was bothering him most. Sides never gave up. It was almost a character flaw. He also never second-guessed his own instincts. Something else was gnawing at him, something deeper, something darker. "Is everything all right?" Eckhart asked. "Yeah, it's fine. I'm just tired," Sides replied. Eckhart glanced at the clock on the wall. It read 5 minutes to 4 a.m. "Damn, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize it was so late." "It's fine," Sides said. "Why don't we call it? Tomorrow when I get up, I'll call some friends of mine and see if they can dig up anything on the Cardinal." Sides nodded in agreement. He nearly stumbled as he stood, fatigue weighing down every movement. With a casual wave, he pushed the chair, now scuffed from his boots, back against the wall and exited the office. The hallway beyond was dim and silent. He ducked into the restroom and relieved himself without bothering to turn on the light. A single grimy bar of soap sat by the sink. He ignored it. While rinsing his hands under the cold water, he caught a glimpse of his reflection in the mirror. It looked more like a shadow than a man, dim, formless, watching. He flicked his hands dry, opened the door, and continued down the hallway toward the front room. "Good night," Eckhart called from a distance. "Good night," Sides replied. He opened the front door of the building and stepped out into the cold night air. The wind ripped across his face and into his ears. He turned to shield himself. The night was empty, void of life. No chirping insects, no barking dogs, no feral cats calling out into the dark. Only the buzzing of old fluorescent lighting and the sound of his shoes crunching over the gravel parking lot. Sides opened his car door and climbed in. The silence was so complete he could hear the rocks crumbling beneath his tires as he backed out. The crackling grew softer as the final stones scattered across the pavement, and he disappeared into the night.